I hear often in this space, especially last week, that women always want to be at the finish line. The women, don't ever want to build with a man. But this is saying that a woman shouldn't build with a man. So it becomes a little bit confusing, so to speak. Does that make sense? Or let's just say.
Can you pull that list back up?
Oh, sure. And another thing too, I want to call Cap. Oh, go ahead. That's your finger up.
Nowhere on this list does it even talk about having a family. It's just how to be the man and get women. That's a good list if that's what you're trying to do. If you want to create a family, I think what Trigger Mike's saying, find somebody that you could build with, but piggybacking off AP while being, consistent with doing what you're supposed to do in life is the best way.
So this is the Cap part, okay? Because I hear in this space a lot, not amongst you guys, about the finish line. But I would argue that men in their 20s usually have a woman there with them when they're struggling. Would anybody disagree with that?
No.
Okay, so argue that women are at the finish line waiting for these guys, that would be an incorrect statement if you're in your 20s and you're broke and you have a woman.
No, but there are. So look, the women that's at the finish line waiting is different than the women you probably dated your whole time.
That's not okay. That may be rightfully so, but the what I'm trying to get at is there is a woman who is usually there riding with you in your 20s. So to say that women wait at the finish line is an incorrect statement because most men in their most men in their 20s are not just sitting there with no woman. They're just not.
You're right. So naturally you're right, but it's not. So that's a good thing to break down because every man can go into their 20s right now and say, what type of girl were you with? So like I said, one of the biggest problems with dating is that a lot of men and women are going to end up with broken hearts because someone has to be practiced. Someone has to, if you're going to date and not court and not iron out and do it for purpose, somebody has to be practiced. So the girls that you were talking to in your 20s rarely ever talked about marriage unless we just left the wedding. It was more about what they wanted to do for a living. They would talk more about the type of husband they wanted you to be more than the wife they wanted you to be. Everything was idealistic. Nothing was realistic. Nothing was purposeful or intentional about your life together. It was literally like enjoying the ride and this is my man. Everything is for show. Take pics for the gram. Like that was the life I think most people lived in their 20s.
So the gram was not there in our 20s. But what I'm saying to you is I'm going to tell you most women have a fantasy of being married. That's just something we grow up. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I know it's thought culture now that's going on now. But we can all say at one point, whether he was right for us or not, we had a guy in our 20s that, because nobody's going to sit there and ride for you, spend money on you, help you get here and not see something with you, because then we just friend zone you. We could do that as you as a friend. You understand what I'm saying?
That's my ultimate point. Who is that man? So who is that man? Is he someone you actually see in the future, or is he someone giving you a certain look at the time? Like you remember being in college, every woman wanted the popular frat boy type. Like, ooh, all the good. So it's more so it's like this person looks good on me, but I'm not even thinking about this 10 years from now, what we could actually build. This is just the best look for me right now.
So it's both for most of those women, right? In their 20s. You want to be married to that guy. But I think where the disconnect is like there isn't that certainty of self to a lot of women who aren't taught to prioritize marriage from a young age. So you're not talking about marriage, you're fantasizing about it, you're talking about it with your girlfriends, but you're not talking about it with your partner because you don't want to quote unquote scare him away because he's still in his 20s, right? You don't want to be too pushy, you don't want to bully him into marriage. Like that's more like it's less about like these are my standards and I'm unwilling to waver on them at that age than it is like this like lack of desire to get married. There's just a certain like with upbringing, you just a lot of people don't have that same certainty towards what they want at that point.
So agree.
Yeah, that was the only part I was disagreeing with.
My point in this is, like I said, so often we say women don't want to be with a man when he is at his low, and I argued that they are. They're just not that man is just not marrying those women. So now she's in her 30s because she spent her 20s with a guy who she probably helped. Now he didn't marry her. Now she's in another relationship in her 30s. That turns into 40s. Long-term relationships that just never lead to marriage. It's not like she's just saying, okay, I just want this rich guy. I mean, maybe now they do, but from what I've seen in the past, because all I can do is go by that, I don't think that's how it worked.
Well,
most when people spent time in long-term relationships, that just didn't end in marriage.
I mean, whose fault is that? That to me is the.
And we're not talking about the fault. What I'm trying to argue is that stop saying that women just want to be at the finish line, because that is not the finish line.
So what I'm sticking by, they still want to be at the finish line because there is a woman you build with, right? But the majority of the women that like you see online, the Instagram models and all of that, they are. Or hold on, okay.
They are the majority.
Hold on. That's why I said the majority of the women that people find uber attractive. That when they walk outside, get approached by every man that's driving down the street, or that's going to be in bottle service, or that can turn heads when they enter a room. Those women tend to be waiting at the finish line.
Or married right after college.
Now,
that means that's your choice because you just want that woman. Don't say women because those are not all women. That's just the woman you want.
Now, what I will say as well is that because I'm kind of with Marcus because you're right, Shan, like they do get into the relationships with these men, but I don't think when the circumstances are equal, that young 20s age, nobody defines that as your lowest. No one defines it as your lowest. We're just at the same level. And when women are forced to get more serious about life faster than men are. So once they get serious, they start to look down on these men like, why aren't you at the, then they start to transition into, you're at a low point right now. I need you to be higher than you actually are. This is very present when women want to date or have a man in their social age group. For some reason, you knew the whole time while y'all were in college, he's not going to get out and make $100,000 more than you. But you see what I'm saying? But you required that, or you required a little bit more rigor in his profession once you started to become serious about life.